During this strawberry or horror moon, we come together on the land of the Western Abenaki people to worship as the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. While studying the special relationship the Abenaki have with this land, we come to realize our responsibility to nurture the young plants around us so that we may enjoy the sweet berries to come.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Good morning and welcome to CVUUS, the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society's online Sunday service. My name is Becky Strum. I'm a member of this congregation, and this morning I'll be serving as worship associate for our settled minister, the Reverend Barnaby Feeder, who will reflect in his sermon this morning on something wonderful. For me, the sense of emerging, awakening slowly, carefully, joyfully from this pandemic is something wonderful. On Thursday, I was in person at CVUUS, masked, but joyously mixing the filling for those glorious rhubarb pies at an in-person pie bee. And I look forward to emerging a little more next Sunday at our flower communion, where we'll have some outdoor and some indoor in-person opportunities to be together, as well as continuing to have the service available online. So if this is your first time with us, email us at cvuus.org so that we can share more about us with you. The best way these days to stay in touch with all of the many activities going on at CVUUS as we begin to find ways to be together is to read the weekly email blast. You'll find many pathways to connection there. That's why if you are new, please let us know so we can send you one. Now, speaking of next Sunday's flower communion, cookie bakers are needed. The service will include a quick, safe, grab-and-go cookie, juice, or soda treat in the fellowship hall. So if you can bake a dozen or more cookies, nut-free, and bring them to the kitchen, let Elizabeth Golden know. Finally, members, please remain after the service for our important annual meeting. And thanks today to our stream team, Margie Young and Richard Hopkins and Abby Sessions for managing the Zoom room, and our CVUUS board for organizing and conducting the annual meeting. Our call to worship this morning is by Robert French Levins. Holy and beautiful, the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Spirit of life. To face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened, and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the inspiring music of history. 3 unseen guests attend: faith, hope, and love. Let us all our hearts prepare them place. Now is the time for our chalice lighting, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. After the chalice in the video is lit, please join with me in reading the words on the screen. As the kindling of this chalice calls us to community, let there be light. As the flame of this chalice reminds us of our values, let there be light. As the glow of this chalice encourages us to hope, let there be light. Let there be light.
Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace. Good morning, everybody. So this is going to be my last time for all ages for a while, because we're going to have the flower communion and we're going to have choir favorites, and then we have summer when I usually don't do time for all ages and take a break. So before I do my story, I just wanted to No, I'll say this after my story. Never mind. I have something to say to you. I always have something to say to you, but I'll start with my story and then I'll say it. So here we go. The story that I'm going to share today is a book called When Aiden Became a Brother. When Aiden was born, everyone thought he was a girl. His parents gave him a pretty name, his room looked like a girl's room, and he wore clothes that other girls liked wearing. But as Aiden got bigger, he hated the sound of his name. He felt like his room belonged to someone else, and he always ripped or stained his clothes accidentally on purpose. Everyone thought he was just a different kind of a girl. Some girls had rooms full of science experiments and bug collections. Lots of girls didn't wear dresses. But Aiden didn't feel like any kind of girl. He was really another kind of boy. It was hard to tell his parents what he knew about himself, but it was even harder not to. It took everyone some time to adjust, and they learned a lot from other families with transgender kids like him. Aiden explored different ways of being a boy. He tried out lots of names until one stuck. They changed his bedroom into a place where he belonged. He also took much better care of his new clothes. Then one day, Mom and Dad had something to tell him. "I'm going to have a baby," Mom announced. "A baby?" Aiden said. "Does that mean I get to be the big brother?" "Of course," said Dad, ruffling his hair. Aiden thought that being a big brother was an important job for a boy like him. He wanted to make sure this baby would feel understood right away. The baby needed clothes, so Aiden and his mom went shopping. There were so many choices. Would the baby like seahorses or penguins better? "Are you having a boy or a girl?" asked the lady. Aiden didn't like it when people asked if he was a boy or a girl, and he hoped the baby couldn't hear yet. He was glad when Mom just smiled and said, "I'm having a baby." The baby's room needed to be painted, so Aiden and his dad went to the hardware store. Dad chose a gallon of sky blue paint, and Aiden added a puffy cloud white. "Are you excited for your new brother or sister?" asked the paint guy. "I'm excited to be a big brother," Aiden said. The paint guy looked confused. Aiden could tell that he wanted to ask a different question and was glad to have his dad there. The big rollers were fun to paint with. "This room feels just like being outside," Aiden exclaimed. He had always felt trapped in his bedroom before they fixed it, but his new sibling wouldn't have to feel that way. "You're right," said Dad. "Let's make some shapes in the clouds." Every baby needs a name. Aiden loved getting to choose his own, but he remembered that it had been hard for his parents to let go of the name they gave him. He looked for names that could fit this new person, no matter who they grew up to be. Babies need someone to read to them, so Aiden practiced and practiced and practiced. Dad wanted to teach Aiden how to change diapers. Maybe later, said Aiden. He decided that picking flowers for his mom was more important. 2 weeks before the baby's due date, Aiden started to worry. Maybe he should have picked different clothes. The blue walls might be too bright. He wished he could ask the baby which name they liked best. Mom came to tuck him in. "Are you feeling okay, sweetie?" she asked. Aiden put his hands over where he thought the baby's ears would be. "Do you think the baby will be happy with everything?" he whispered. "I don't want them to feel like I did when I was little. But what if I get everything wrong? What if I don't know how to be a good big brother?" Mom hugged him tight. "When you were born, we didn't know you were going to be our son. We made some mistakes, but you helped us fix them. And you taught us how important it is to love someone for exactly who they are. This baby is so lucky to have you, and so are we. The next morning, Aiden found the boxes of his old baby pictures. He looked so different back then. It hadn't been easy, but he liked the boy he was growing into. Maybe everything wouldn't be perfect for this baby. Maybe he would have to fix mistakes he didn't even know he was making, and maybe that was okay. Aiden knew how to love someone, and that was the most important part of being a brother. And there's big balloons that say, "It's a baby." And you can see the baby on Aiden's lap in the chair. So I picked this story for a few reasons. One is I just wanted to lift up transgender kids and families that are lucky enough to have transgender kids in them, and help them expand what they thought might be possible for their kids and their family. And the other reason is there's a message in the book that I just wanted to say again. At one point, they say how important it is to love someone for exactly who they are. And to me, that's what this congregation is about. That's why I love this job. That's why I do the work with the kids. That's what I try to bring to this community. And that's what I get from this community. The service today is a lot about, right, that when you show up, there's always going to be something wonderful. You just don't know what it will be, not just because we're together. And, you know, the more people you have, the more surprises and the more things can come up. But also because I really think that this is a group who works very hard to try to love each other for exactly who they are. And I also think, and this is a lot harder maybe, that we try to show up as who we are, which is very hard sometimes. And so the other thing I wanted to say is actually a message to the grown-ups. So kids, you can still listen, but this is a message to the people that have been coming to these worship services really since we first started them, when we first had to quickly pivot and come to Zoom. Families were totally overwhelmed and many still are. And so showing up in the morning, you know, to try to come see these services live on Zoom has been really tough. So the people that I have seen have been you. I mean, if you look around, you're the group that I have just spent the last however many months, 14 months, and pretty much all of the pandemic with. And you're a group, some of you I knew really well before we went into this. Some of you I didn't know at all. And some of you I knew enough to kind of say, oh, you know, there's so-and-so, and wave and say hi. But I never got to stay for whole services like this. I never got to, you know, see each other's faces and feel so intimately connected. And I know that getting to see you this whole time, not just see you, but getting to see you and connect with you, and many of you sent me emails and sent me messages in the chat to say thanks for the story, or thanks for the song, or thanks whatever, at a time when my job was so bizarre. I mean, basically my job was totally different, and I was very disconnected from the kids that I usually saw. So you have really been my kids this time, and been my community. And I'm aware that after we come back in person, you'll still be there, but it's going to be different, right? We're not going to just be on Zoom. We're going to be in person, which will be wonderful and glorious. But I'm aware that this, for me, is a shifting of something that I thought I was just totally psyched to have shift. And I've realized that there's a piece that I'm actually really going to miss. And so I wanted to very deeply say thank you. A huge, huge thank you to all of you for how much you looked at me and sang along and told me how much you liked stories, because I'm extremely aware that if I had not had you during this time, it would have been much, much harder for me to do this. So it has really, really been a gift to me to get to come do this work. And I know I get to keep doing it, but I just wanted to especially say thanks to all of you whose faces I'm seeing right now, and some of you aren't here and might see this later. Thank you for being so open to me and communicating so much, especially. And I hope it will continue, and I know it will. So, there you go. You got a true poppy, time for all ages, because I cried. So going out with the poppy bang. So now, my friends, let us shift to do our offering, which is the time that we taken money to support this great community and to support another organization, right? We always share our plate with another organization, and we're now in the month of June. So this month's organization that we're going to share with is the Festival on the Green in Middlebury, which last year, as many of you know, could not happen. After however many years, I grew up with them. I remember being a kid and running around the green in the dark, and how amazing that was. So they're a total gift to us, and they're coming back this summer in August 2nd through 6th. And they really need our support to keep going, especially because they had a year off. So I hope you will all share as generously as you can and go in August and support their music. And here's a message from them.
Good morning. My name is Beth Duquette, and I'm a volunteer with Middlebury Festival on the Green. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the festival for some of you who haven't been to it or are new in town. And it's a wonderful event. We're in our 42nd year. Last year would have been our 42nd, but of course, because of the pandemic, as with so many things, we had to postpone. And we're looking so forward with joy to being back together with everyone, and family reunions and picnics. And this year, it's usually the second week of July, but we wanted to wait till August, and we're a little condensed. We're doing August 2nd through the 6th, just one show at 7 p.m. But just a little bit about why I am part of it and have been for so long is it's a pretty joyful event to be working with music and community and everybody being together for this event and working with everybody. It takes almost a year for the programming to come together, and just seeing how happy, and it's good for the soul, and we're really looking forward to being with you again this year. And if anybody wants to join us and help us bring it to fruition, the more the merrier, and it's really a lot of fun. But I do think that the festival is a very dear event to a lot of people. And there's children are now having children and remember being at festival. So it is like a family reunion. So we hope to see you. And thank you for taking this moment, letting me take this moment. And thank you for your generosity and whether you come and volunteer or people in the community with their donations. It is so appreciated. We're all volunteers, and we do it for the love of doing it. So, and it's a beautiful spring day in Vermont, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poppy, for your sharing, and to Richard for putting together at the last minute this special introduction to our offering with music from the Festival of the Green 25 years ago. And now it's time for our milestones. This is the time in the service where people share events in their lives or concerns and joys. And I want to start with a note I received from Mary Hadley, who was the chief stock for our Rhubarb Festival yesterday. A Rhubarb Festival that didn't look like it was going to happen until it suddenly came together at the last minute. And in a slimmed down form that recognized we wanted to have fellowship and caring for each other and yet do something. So we picked up what we could bite off, bake, and we came out with $2,600, enough to make a substantial offer to Hope, Project Hope, of sharing in the donations, the proceeds from that. And a lot of people participated in the baking and the sharing. We want to say thank you to everyone who did. We've delivered a couple of little samples also to people who are shut in. And Ann Ross wrote me to say that she had passed on the special pie that we brought her to her family, Lauren, who were entertaining out-of-town guests, thinking they would save a slice for her, but they consumed it so happily that nothing was left over for Ann. So we'll figure out another way, Ann, to get you your slice of this year's pie. I have one other very important milestone to be shared. A lot of you know Liam Greenwood in many different ways, but you might not know that he is actually an ordained Christian minister. And Liam says this: a month ago, the pastor of Vergennes UCC Church asked me if I was interested in an RE director position. I did apply, interviewed, and they offered me the role, which I accepted. This part-time ministry will tap my pastoral identity, my love for all ages, and playfully dovetail with things I'm working on at school. Unfortunately, it takes me away from doing church with Mike and connecting with my many friends at CVUUS. Every time I have done something at CVUUS, sang in the choir, joined a book group, went for a hike, or coordinated a worship service, I have learned new things, met new and amazing people, and felt like I was able to give back to the community in a meaningful way. Thank you. You are loved and appreciated, and I look forward to staying connected through Mike's involvement. And I've been in touch with Liam and Mike already, saying that we also look forward to staying connected in creative and loving ways. And we're very excited that this chance for Liam to grow further into his spiritual identity has come his way, and that it hasn't taken him away from us. He'll be nearby. There's always unspoken joys and concerns too, and I know of many of them through private communications, but when people choose to keep them private, I respect that. We do leave time in our service for people to silently pray and meditate what's on their heart so that they can more fully enter into what remains of our service together. And I invite you now into that silence, praying that it will bring you to your full set of feelings that you come with today.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss, and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
Our ancient reading this morning is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 13, verses 10 through 17. Now Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and just then there appeared a woman with a spirit that had crippled her for 18 years. She was bent over and was quite unable to stand up straight. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said, "Woman, you are free from your ailment." When he laid his hands on her, immediately she stood up straight and began praising God. But the leader of the synagogue, indignant because Jesus had cured on the Sabbath, kept saying to the crowd, "There are 6 days on which work ought to be done. Come on those days to be cured, and not on the Sabbath day." But Jesus answered him and said, "You hypocrites, does not each of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or his donkey from the manger and lead it away to give it water? And ought not this woman, whom Satan bound for 18 long years, be set free from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" When he said this, all his opponents were put to shame, and the entire crowd was rejoicing at all the wonderful things he was doing. Our modern reading is the covenant of the Northern New England chapter of the UU Ministers Association, and this was adopted in 2009. We covenant to support one another in the work of ministry. We want to be together as our best selves with our best behavior. We want each other's help, radical honesty to see the truth more clearly, radical hospitality to open us to one another. We want to be accountable to ourselves and to each other. Because we want to be able to be vulnerable with each other, we will not exploit each other's vulnerabilities, and we will be forgiving. We want a lightness of heart and a depth of spirit. We know it's complicated. We know there are differences among us in power, in practice, in belief. We know this covenant requires presence and kindness and mindfulness and courage. We come together to share gifts, the depth of our wisdom and experience, the clarity of our vision, the strength of our hope.
Thank you so much, Becky, for that wonderful reading of both of those readings. Several years ago, I was grumbling to Steve Meyer that it was sometimes difficult to come up with catchy titles for services reflecting what I planned to talk about in a sermon 7 weeks before that date, which I had to do for the newsletter. Steve told me he thought I should give up. The title for every week, he said, should be Something Wonderful. This strategy was based on Steve's attitude about Sunday congregational worship. As I recall it, he felt that people shouldn't need any prompting from a catchy title or subject to come. They should come every Sunday with confidence that something wonderful was bound to happen at some point. As we talked, I took Steve's experience to be that even if the sermon failed to grab him or hold on to him, and nobody knew better than I that there are countless ways that that can happen. Even if that happened, something wonderful would generally occur to him in the course of the sermon. He would be enriched by being there that morning. Something would happen that made him glad that he was a member of the congregation. And if it wasn't happening in the sermon, maybe it was when he sang with the choir, or during the time for all ages, or when we all sang a favorite hymn together. It occurred to me later that maybe he even had in mind the noise of an infant crying in the nursery during our time of prayerful silence. There's life following its own order of service again. It's beckoning us to mentally comfort the infant, empathize with any parents who are trying to decide if they need to get up and go to the infant, and be grateful that we have trained employees there to be our first responders to the howls. How wonderful this variation on silent prayer and meditation. I see many feedback loops in the life of a congregation. There are always people in thriving congregations who show up to make sure they have a chance to encounter each other and anyone who appears to be a newcomer. How wonderful is that hospitality? There are those who come well aware they are seeking what I'd call the big stuff, experiences that might inspire us to make transformational changes in our lives, or an encounter with someone who really needs our help at a time we're able to give it. How wonderful when they find what they seek. But wonder isn't always so earnest. I can't imagine there are any regular churchgoers among us who have never had that wonderful experience of getting to know someone whose life story is so different from ours that it's absolutely astonishing our lives have intersected at all. There's life saying, you wanted a simple blessing? How about getting to know someone new to you? Of course, every type of congregation and every secular community, for that matter, has its own sources of wonder. I'm prejudiced, but I see UU congregations as especially geared toward creating something wonderful moments during worship. And as you notice, the signs of shared emotions are bubbling up in the room, a healing feeling of belonging gets added to the mix. For many of us, it is the music more than any words that stir such wonderful emotions. Or maybe collective silence, or rituals like the flower communion we will celebrate next Sunday. And for those of you who are new to us, the heart of that communion is everybody bringing flowers that go into a giant bouquet representing the diversity of our community, and then leaving with a different flower than the one they brought. I want to say a bit more, though, about music, since our search team began interviewing candidates for our new director of music position this weekend. Many of our hymns combine words and music to convey what I'm trying to say this morning much more powerfully than I could ever speak in plain language from the pulpit alone. For instance, there's the hymn that begins, "Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again." I know that many of you listening to me recite this familiar lyric are dying to sing it together again in our sanctuary. In my original text, I said this sanctuary because I was planning to preach today from our sanctuary until my laptop gave me sign-in problems. So here I am at home. But I know we're gathering again in the sanctuary in our hearts as soon as we can. We've endured such a long 15 months of pandemic distancing. Don't get me wrong, it's been wonderful for many of us that we've been able to meet as often as we have online, and even to share some elements of worship that work better online than in person, as Poppy explained to you so wonderfully in her sharing. And to stick with kids for a minute, some of the raw and wonderful honesty we experienced from our coming of age class in their service last month might have been impossible for them to share from a pulpit facing a full room of us, rather than it going out over an online service. But online worship is a different species of wonderful than Steve had in mind when he suggested that every service should be titled something wonderful. And now here we are looking forward to a summer of experimenting with hybrid worship. How are we going to reopen our sanctuary by this fall in ways that dish out the wonderfulness of gathering to both those who are walking through our doors and those who are watching from far away online? And thinking about this, I told myself this annual meeting Sunday today was really made for thinking about Steve's suggestions seriously. What would wonderful worship mean as our weekly title for Sunday gathering in the atmosphere in which we're headed? We are about to take a close look at what we've done over the past year and an even closer look at what we are going to commit to trying to do in the year to come. And we're 1 week away from Flower Communion, that first service where we'll be back in large numbers in the sanctuary, albeit for short periods of time with lots of safety precautions. The technology experimenting on how we will have hybrid wonderful is just about to begin and will go on throughout the summer. I hope you will join me in promising each other to remember that this is all wonderful. If there was no CVUUS, or only a small number of us with a part-time minister and no youth program, as is true for so many congregations, the experiments would not be needed. Our ancient reading makes it clear that our challenge isn't entirely novel. In this story from the biblical Gospel of Luke, we encounter a stark conflict in a synagogue about what makes for something wonderful in a time of worship. To the religious authorities, it is worship that follows the prescribed rituals of Jewish law and refrains from everything else on the Sabbath, the day of rest. The leader of the synagogue chides the people for seeking healing from Jesus on that day. To Jesus, healing is a form of releasing people from spiritual bondage, which the Sabbath itself is also about in other ways. Now, the people aren't concerned with the theological details of this debate. They are simply rejoicing at the wonderful spectacle of Jesus' healing power and in the shaming of leaders who defined love too narrowly. Can I confess a little envy here? I know nothing I will ever do is going to have crowds of you rejoicing in the way depicted in this Bible story. I can't heal physical disabilities with a laying on of hands, and that's not part of the something wonderful we can offer. But heartfelt consolation is something we nurture, both in worship and through ministries like our Caring Network. And something wonderful happens, I believe, every time we sing, "How can anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful?" and then treat you like we mean it. I think that the fact that we rely on each and all of us, not miracles, may be unspectacular, but it is a reason to hope that we can offer something wonderful every Sunday. As I'm wrapping up here, I need to say more about what we mean by wonderful. One website I came across very quickly had 42 different synonyms for wonderful. Instead of promising something wonderful each week, we could spice things up by running through that list, from admirable, amazing, and astonishing to swell, too much, and unheard of. We might want to skip over something groovy as two 1960s and something peachy as a tinge sarcastic. But what's really missing from this list is full disclosure. Some things that fill us with wonder aren't what we'd call wonderful. In fact, they're downright terrifying at times. How could we find ourselves caught up so much in destruction, injustice, ignorance, and selfishness? You have to wonder. I mean it. You really have to wonder. For us to be doing everything we need to do in our time of worship, we have to confront the sources of our pain and sorrow, as well as keeping our eyes open for those experiences that Steve had in mind. There's death and dying to deal with, of course, but much more too. As one UU I knew more than 40 years ago said, every time he got a chance to lead a worship service, all of us are in pain, no matter how much we resent it. Some of the most wonderful moments I've encountered at CVUUS have actually been quite painful. And I think maybe Steve also had these moments in mind. Some of you will remember the time Chuck began playing an African-American spiritual as it was written in the hymnal with a little extra dash of haste and energy. Francois stood up, he started complaining, and then he began to sing. And then he charged to the front of the room yelling, "No, no, no, you have to sing it like this." And he sang, and it was slow, and it was loud. It was almost tortured. And he was yelling it out at us, even as a few folks in the front row right in front of him cowered. This was a clear violation of our right relations covenant. It was also a clear demonstration of why that covenant might not be adequate to address tragedies like the impact of systemic racism on our congregation. I believe we needed what Francois laid on us that day, and that beggars can't be choosers about exactly how it was delivered. There was shock in the room that day, but we responded with love for everyone involved, with open-minded conversation about what had just happened, and a certain amount of apology. I call that whole morning something wonderful, even as I realize some of you might not. We want, though, to experience something wonderful at CVUUS every week, including, if necessary, wonders inescapably bound up in the parts of our lives that need healing. Because of that, I suggest we might want to pay more attention to our covenants. That is, promises of how we will try to be together. Covenants are especially important to Unitarian Universalism because we do not have creedal beliefs. You don't have to believe the same things as each other to be welcome among us. But without common beliefs that are binding us together, it only works with a deep and shared commitment about how we will be together in everything we attempt to do: worship, fellowship, social action, yes, even governance issues like how we organize and finance our congregation. I included the Northern New England Ministers' Covenant in our reading because it is the best example of a covenant I've encountered in my lifetime as a Unitarian Universalist. With a little tinkering, I think it could serve a congregation just as well as a group of ministers. So I'm going to end my sharing today as we move towards our annual meeting with the way that covenant ends. We want a lightness of heart and a depth of spirit. We know it's complicated. We know there are differences among us in power, in practice, in belief. We know this covenant requires presence and kindness and mindfulness and courage. We come together to share gifts, the depth of our wisdom and experience, the clarity of our vision, the strength of our hope. May we always come together to share gifts, whether it's in our sanctuary or online, for many years to come. Blessed be, and amen.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die. We dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of the child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found our time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an we seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found our joy being together, and in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Let us go forth to our annual meeting, a time to plan our joy in being together and to question truly, and then on into the week of fulfilling our lives by living ever more closely to our UU values. Blessed be.
Hello, everyone. I guess I'll jump in and say it's great to see you all. I'm going to suggest that we take a 3-minute stretching break while so people can get up and walk around. I'm going to set my phone timer here, and then we can get started with the annual meeting. I should also yeah, check in with Margie on something, but okay. So I'm starting the timer. So 3 minutes, we will start. So Margie, are you here? Let's see. Or Richard Hopkins. Ah, okay. So I guess I'm host already, so people are having a hard time unmuting. All right, well then I'll have to play with that. Let's see. This is what the 3 minutes are for. Let's see. All right, you should be able to unmute yourselves now. So Margie.
You can also make me a co-host if you want me to be able to do anything fancy.
Okay, well, what I really need first is to figure out how to, start a poll, and I'm not seeing that as an option of mine.
Now that you're the host, you couldn't see it before, but you don't see it now. Let's see. I'm logged into the website, and I wonder whether I could make a poll on the website. What's the first poll?
All of the polls, I haven't written one yet because I haven't been able to.
Got it. Okay. On the website, it looks like it can.
That's correct. My recollection is that you can only create polls on the website, but you can start
from
the Zoom window.
So I can do that.
If you could do that, that would be great. It would just be, how do you vote on the motion? Yes or no?
And try it actually, just so that okay, so there is now a poll. And I'm thinking that you now see polling as a thing.
Look at that. You're a miracle worker, Margie. Thank you.
So
excellent.
Do you want to try it, or we could test it with everybody? I'm just wondering whether I even did it right.
Let's test it right now with people who are still here. We're still officially on the break. So I'm going to launch a poll. So everyone imagine a question that has a yes or no answer, and then you get to decide how you're going to vote. If there are two people on your one screen, then you can choose to answer the second question. So this is an honor system thing. Question 2 is only for pairs of people watching together. Okay, so again, think of any question and answer yes or no.
Right. Should pink be the official color of CVUUS?
I like that question.
Okay, co-hosts should not vote. In fact, co-hosts cannot vote.
Oh, well, that's good.
Because as a co-host, the only option I get is end poll. I don't
Okay.
do that. Priscilla should be the only person who ends the polls.
Okay.
I can vote, but I can't submit the vote.
You have to refuse the option of the second person.
Mm-hmm. So you have to choose no second person for the second one.
Good point. Yeah, there we go.
Worked fine.
I'm glad we did the test.
Yeah.
All right. So it's now over, and here are the results. Does everyone see the results? All right.
Yeah. Okay. So
All right. Pink it is.
who knew?
Okay, that's our signal, folks. The break is officially over.
You just filled it too full, that's all. But it's thank you. Look at you.
Priscilla?
Yes.
For the co-hosts that need to be counted for voting, do I just add you in if you want to just maybe text me in the box?
Okay. We can also unco-host almost everybody. Like
I need to share my screen and Mary needs to share her screen.
Got it. So you could co-host Poppy. You can unco-host Abby.
Okay. All right. I'll work on that.
Darling.
So I'll just add you and Mary, basically your votes, if you either want to text me or raise your hands.
Right. Right.
Whatever.
Okay.
Is that Mary Hadley, to be clear?
Mary Hadley, to be clear, yes.
Making sure. Thank you.
Mary Hadley and Mary Conlon.
All right.
Conlon. She never showed. I wonder.
Okay, so
Because of her mother. No longer.
all right, so welcome everyone to the 2021 annual meeting. I'm going to check in with our clerk, Cass Singh, to confirm that we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
All right, so I declare a quorum. And I'd like to just quickly thank everyone else who's served on the board this year. Our vice president has been Doug Richards. Our clerk, as you see, has been Cass Singh. Our treasurer extraordinaire is Mary Hadley. And then at-large members are Carrie Duquette Hoffman, Ann Webster, and Mark Spreitzer. So thank you to them. So we just had our little practice poll, so I hope that works for people. Or for our first vote, we'll review again exactly what that means. A couple of clarifications on the agenda. So I'm going to play with sharing my screen here. First of all, just to remind you what the agenda looks like, since it's hard to look at everything. All right, so here's the agenda, the top part of it anyway. So in part 4, during the report from the governing board, we're also going to slip in a report from the Council of Ministries. So that's one enhancement, I'll say, to the agenda. And then at the end, at the other business, as we did last year, we will discuss who our GA delegates will be, General Assembly delegates will be at the very end. Okay. So that's that. So we move to item 2, which is our thanks to the CVUUS staff. And there is no way to express completely our thanks to the CVUUS staff for having dealt with such an extraordinary year. We just heard from Poppy, and I don't know how many of us were in tears, but I'll put myself among that group. She's been wonderful this year. It's just been, I think she underplays the extent to which she had to adjust, and she did so quite creatively. And I also want to thank Lucy for being our choir director, for Laura Sermley for being our office maven, I guess. And who else do I need to thank? Other board members, help me out here.
Our bookkeeper, Chris Butler.
Yes, Chris Butler. It's fabulous.
And the guys that help in facilities, including Keith.
Yep, thank you. Yep. So
and Reverend Barnaby.
And of course, Reverend Barnaby.
And Kate and Chuck are accompanists extraordinaire for most of the year.
Yes, yes.
And Ronnie.
And Ronnie for adapting well as well. Okay. Next, we have a report from the nominating committee. The job of the nominating committee is to nominate people, as you see on the proposed. Whenever you see proposed slate, that's the work of the nominating committee. Katie couldn't be with us today, as I said, so here's her report. I'll just read it out loud. After considering the needs of the CVUUS board and conferring several times as a committee and talking with over a dozen CVUUS members, the CVUUS nominating committee presents this proposed slate. And I won't read you the whole slate, but many thanks to them. And I think we should be thrilled with the job that they did on that. Okay, I've skipped down, no, did I? Let's see. Yeah, I skipped down to 5. Sorry about that. Number 3, we're supposed to approve the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting. So let's test our polling here. I need a motion from the Zoom floor to approve the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting, which were in your packet that got sent out.
As the only person who can unmute, I move that motion, and I also suggest that we make a way for people to wave or something.
Okay, I thought I did that, but
oh, maybe you did. Can everyone unmute? Great. Anyway, I move it to approve them.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Mike Greenwood. Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
It would be helpful, since I'm taking notes, if you're going to move or second, please say your name, because I can't type and watch the screen at the same time, please.
That makes
Thank you.
sense. Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll. Again, if you're watching the screen by yourself, then you just answer question 1, yes or no, and then in question 2, you click on no second person. Okay, so the question is, the motion is to approve the minutes of the 2020. Oh, you know what I forgot was discussion. Any discussion of the minutes? So just unmute yourself and chime in if you have any concerns about the minutes that came out. All right, hearing none, I'm going to launch. Yeah, sorry.
I apologize.
That's okay, Paul.
My computer became unplugged and I just got it back.
All right.
I do have a couple comments about the minutes, and I don't know if you've already covered these things or not, but last year we had a lot of discussion about an end statement.
Yes.
The proposal got tabled to another time.
Yep.
And that was one question. And another question is the Shelter Rock account said it lost money. I just wondered if we lost a lot of money or what the situation was there.
Okay. So the end statement is still tabled. I'll just say the board did not spend a lot of time on that this past year. As for the Shelter Rock account, Mary, do you have?
I can't speak to the Shelter Rock account itself. What I can say is that we did get the payouts that we expected, or actually more than the payouts we thought we were going to get, and that those long-term investments did bounce back earlier in our fiscal year. And we can look at the balance sheet to see those overall balances through the last year when we get to that part of the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions about the minutes? Okay, so I'm going to relaunch the poll. And so the vote this time is, the motion on the floor is the vote to approve the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting.
So I don't see where to find the poll.
Some people are able to vote. If you're unable to see the poll, I would suggest just put your vote in the chat for Cass. So let's reserve the chat for that sort of a thing, okay? Let's reserve the chat for dealing with technological glitches.
Yeah. Typically, when you can't see the poll, it is hidden behind another window. So maybe look around a bit.
made friends with a guy named Liam over at the
All right, so I'm, let's see. So I'm seeing no votes. Margie, maybe you can help me out here. Why am I seeing no votes?
If I may, I can't submit, and all of a sudden I can't access the chat.
Okay.
I may have to reboot. So it could be.
I don't know if that's your problem or mine.
I can see 40 yes.
Oh, okay.
No, and then
Okay,
for the second person, 13 yes, 1 no.
Oh,
and
all right.
40 no second person. Well, you can't see it. I don't know, but I maybe end the poll and then ask.
Okay, great.
He wasn't. I think voting in the chat to add people is good too.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. And now I see the vote. All right.
Cass, can you see it?
Okay, so I will say out loud what I'm seeing is 41 in favor in the first category and another 13 in the second category and 1 no.
So that's 54 yeses.
And that's just from the poll. That's not from the chat.
I think in total we have 56 yeses and 1 no.
Okay. Thank you all for your patience. So now to item 4. Report of the governing board. So I would, to sort of summarize what we've been up to for the past year, it's been a balance between long-range planning, which is a big part of our job, and dealing with continuing challenges of a pandemic. The day-to-day work of dealing with the pandemic has fallen on a lot of people, but the board has played a role in that as well. And we also really wanted to do our best to listen to the congregation in various ways. And so I hope we were successful in doing that, given the challenges of doing everything online. For the future, we're continuing our work on the long-term plan, as you'll hear at the end of the meeting. And things we need to pay and plan to pay attention to are stewardship of our resources and ministerial transition, since sometime over the next 5 years, Barnaby will be retiring, and we need to decide how we're going to adjust to that change. I will pass the mic over to Doug Richards.
Thanks, Priscilla. Good morning. My task this morning is in a few minutes to offer a more broad and precise set of thanks to members of the congregation who have performed service over the past year, and in some cases over several years, during this very challenging time. I'd like to begin, though, with some words from the Reverend Ashley Horan. This is, if I can get there. This is from a piece entitled "The Holy Work of Showing Up." It's an excerpt. You are enough. You are precious. Your work and your life matter, and you are not alone. You are part of a we, a great cloud of witnesses, living and dead, who have insisted that this beautiful broken world of ours is a blessing worthy of both deep gratitude and fierce protection. Our ancestors and our descendants are beckoning us, compelling us onward toward greater connection, greater compassion, greater commitment to one another and to the earth. Together, we are resilient and resourceful enough to say yes to that call, to make it our life's work in 1,000 different ways, knowing that we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again, to be part of building that world of which we dream, but which we have not seen. That, it seems to me, applies especially to those folks who are in my very quick list. It's feeling a little bit like the Academy Awards, but I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. Of course, as others have pointed out, both Barnaby and Poppy deserve enormous gratitude for having gone above and beyond what they were normally expected to do during the past year. In addition, the worship team, led by Abby Sessions, has provided an enormous support to that. And in particular, the music ministry, and especially Lucy, in leading the choir, deserves a special thank you. Her passionate commitment to music and over the last year to visual beauty has enhanced our experience of Sunday services enormously. Kate, Chuck, of course, and Eric Meyer, who's done an enormous amount of work to overcome technological issues. Ronnie, as others have mentioned. And lastly, the tech folks, Margie and Richard Hopkins, Rich Wolfson, and